Welcome everyone who's here. My name is Hannah Henza. I'm the Director of National Programs here at Hazon. I also happen to be the sort of Managing Director of the Hazon Seal of Sustainability. And as you may or may not have heard, over the summer, there's been a lot happening with the Hazon Seal. We had sort of quietly stopped bringing on new sites at the beginning of the year. Many of you know that Marav, who had been with us for many years at this point, transitioned out of Hazon. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, that's totally fine. Welcome to the party. We're happy to have you. But that meant that over the summer we had an opportunity to really think about what does the future of the Hazon Seal look like, and how can we build on the incredible success that all of our sites have been doing and making in the world over the last 6 years, and think about where we wanted to go. So I offered to just do a quick presentation on sort of where are we with the Hazon Seal. I've got probably 10-15 minutes of conversation or presentation to give you with a PowerPoint, and then I'll just turn it over for questions at the end. I will just say I really struggle with the whole chat feature while I'm talking. So if you ask me a question while I'm talking and I don't see it, it's not you, it's totally me. But I will try to get to it after I'm done with the presentation. I am curious though, before we get started, and this is an open chat question that I will pay attention to right now, if anybody's coming with any particular questions that you have about either you're currently a site and you have a question about what's happening, or you're thinking about joining the Hazon Seal, if I could just get a sense of if anybody's coming with any particular questions, and then maybe I can think about what makes sense. Amazing, would love to have you. So okay, I think with that I'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna do a screen share situation, so bear with me 1 minute. Okay, so the Hazon Seal of Sustainability, creating healthier, more equitable and sustainable Jewish communities and a world for all. So if you don't know what the Hazon Seal of Sustainability is, I would love to know how you found us today, but for anyone who is new to the program, we consider the Hazon Seal to be a comprehensive way to think about greening or creating more sustainable practices in your institution overall. So this could be in programming, in facilities management, in grounds management, in how you're thinking about the ways you communicate, or really you could approach this from any perspective around your organizational planning or programming, and we welcome you into this space. So the program itself, I'll just start with the structure, get sort of the nuts and bolts out of the way. It's fairly straightforward. It's a fairly straightforward application process. You go to our website. I should have put that here. It's seal.hazon.org. We have a brand new website. Feel free to check it out. It's got tons of information on it. And then you fill out the application. The application there's no that doesn't bind you to anything. It's just a chance for you to get more information, for us to get more information about you. We would schedule a call after that to make sure that the program was a good fit, and that things felt like it could move forward in a healthy and sustainable way. Then you would, or you could do this before you apply. We highly recommend you form a green team. If you don't have a green team, or you don't have a committee of folks who are dedicated to helping you think about sustainability or think about greening practices in your organization, we really advocate for this. We really believe that it's the best way to create lasting success within an organization or a community. It really helps to have a group of folks who are supporting you in this and can help lead the charge. So we've got some tips on that if you have questions on how to create a green team, but we highly recommend that. Then there's a letter of agreement and a program fee. Some of our regions who have local funding don't have a program fee associated with participation, and we can talk to you about that if you think that applies to you. But there is a slight program fee, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But the letter of agreement, that might be the most important part. And this is just, it's an online form, but it's a letter stating that you and your green team and your executive leadership of your organization or your community fully understand, what we're getting into, what kind of commitment you're making, and what this work is going to entail. Not because it's so all-consuming, although it can be, but most importantly, so that we know and you really have that support. You have that support system behind you, so that if anything happens, or as you're going through this journey, if you hit a bump in the road, you really feel like you have what you need to be successful on the ground. From there, you'd be admitted into the program, and you'd get access to our sort of behind the scenes version of our website. We have a whole system behind our login feature, on our website, where you'll see our audits. We have four comprehensive greening audits, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but they're around education and programming, energy use, waste reduction, and food choices. From there, you would choose 2 to 3 projects. You can do more, but we recommend 2 to 3 projects every year that you can take on, and that could be, again, that could be around programming, that could be around facilities, that could be around grounds, that could be in any way that you feel like you're moving the needle forward on sustainable dialogue and greening initiatives, in your community. You let us know what those projects are, and then you work on them throughout the year. And during that time, during your 12-month period, you're able to hop on, cohort support calls. We're organizing all of our sites now and members into either themed or region cohorts, so that you have, a small group of folks who are doing similar type work to you, either geographically or thematically, so that you have a network within our network, because we're almost 100 sites at this point. That's a big group to pull from, and you can certainly lean on that big group, but also it's helpful, we find, to have these smaller networking groups for you to lean on there. And there's also webinars and a few other things that kind of get provided throughout the year. You can schedule 2 consultation calls throughout the year. These are each 1 hour a piece, and we recommend using one for programming and one for facilities. But if all of your projects are in sort of the nuts and bolts of like changing out an air conditioner or changing out a boiler system, feel free to use both of those hours on facilities. And if all of your projects are on greening your organizational education opportunities, or hosting a green kiddish event or something like that, feel free to use them in programming. And then at the end of the year, we just ask that you let us know how things went and submit some feedback. Additional perks of the program. Sometimes we can make this happen. At the end of the year, if you're able to complete or make substantial progress towards your projects, you will receive a certification. We mail out a certificate at the end of your 12-month cycle so that you can post that on your wall and put that on your website and be incredibly proud and really share the work that you've been doing over the year. Sometimes we have extra pots of money that become available, and we share out mini grant opportunities, and that's just to sort of help kickstart some of those projects that you have signed up to do, or even do additional projects that you might be inspired to do throughout the year. We offer webinars and online trainings. We're going to be trying to offer that about once a month, in addition to and that is in addition to your cohort connections through other cohort dedicated meetings, again, about once a month. All of those are optional. You don't have to participate in the webinars or the cohort calls, but we do recommend them because they can offer lots of great support for you, throughout the year. And then this is our newest feature on our website. Once you've logged in, once you're a member, you'll have access to a Hazon Seal specific sort of social networking platform. And it's not as complicated as it sounds, but it is a chance for you to engage in forums or in dialogues, within the construct of the Hazon Seal with other organizations who may or may not be in your cohort, who may be working on, similar projects, or who have ideas that you want to sort of float around. So That's an awesome opportunity that we're very excited about moving forward. I guess I'm gonna admit that person. Okay, audits. So we talked a lot about you know, the foundation of the program is this audit system, or I mentioned it, and I really want to emphasize that at this point. The Hazon Seal really functions as a journey. And so we want to understand, and we want you to understand where you're starting that journey at. So these audits are a great way for you to just get a baseline of information around, you know, where are you in this process? And so I am very happy to say that our audit system has been completely overhauled this summer. We worked with a team of greening and sustainability professionals who helped us to design 4 different audits. We previously had 3, and they were the feedback on the audits was mixed, but we did feel like that was an area we could improve, and so we're very happy with what we've come up with. So we have a baseline we'll get a baseline understanding of energy and water use, waste management, our food choices, and education and advocacy. And so again, these are, you don't have to take all of them. You can take whichever, you know, feels right for you, but we do recommend getting a baseline understanding of just where you're at so you can figure out what makes the most sense. One of the most exciting things for me, I think, with the audits is that now for every question you answer, for every audit you complete, you'll get a letter grade, and we score them. Don't worry, we score them C through A++, so nobody's going to fail. But at the end, it'll give you your letter grade, and then it'll spit. We have an algorithm built into it, which is kind of a funny thing to say, but it'll actually give you customized project recommendations and action steps that you can take, very specific, that will eventually, we're still in the process of this, but eventually they'll link to comprehensive toolkits so that you can go in and say, you know, I took the food choices audit and it recommends that we serve, you know, a little bit less meat at our kiddish dinners, and then you'll be able to link right there from that page to a resource guide that will help you sort of take those steps forward. So we're pretty excited about those. They're also much more user friendly, very intuitive, and I'll show you some screenshots of that in just a minute. Another thing we spoke about is our cohort structure. So I wanted to say a little bit about that right now. This is what we're looking at, and we're moving forward with many more cohorts in the very near future. So right now we have regional cohorts in Detroit, Chicago, and Denver. Those are staffed by local on-the-ground folks, and if you're in one of those cohorts, you know you get a lot of extra perks for being in a regional group together. And then this summer we worked with, this was our sort of summer pilot to figure out, you know, if these themed cohorts, if these sort of national cohorts could work. And we just saw tremendous success having a small group of folks who were doing similar style projects, you know, come in and work together. And so they're going to continue on as a unit, and we're going to build a few more sort of themed cohorts around that, including Jewish Youth Climate Movement. If you were in the environmental racism panel earlier today, you saw a couple of the JYCM teens speak, and just the incredible work that they're doing. They're getting all of their regional chapters to join the Hazon Seal, and so their schools and synagogues are going to start to join us on this journey. And then Becky O'Brien is with us here, and she's going to be leading a food and climate specific cohort, and that's going to be you'll apply to be in that cohort, and there's some extra perks that come with that, but it'll be for organizations who are specifically looking at making food related policy changes or taking on food related projects, and Becky will be around at the end to answer questions if we have about that. Future cohorts we're thinking of, you know, it could be depending on the composition of who comes into the program. We think that regional cohorts are extremely beneficial, and so we're definitely continuing to pursue other regional locations, as well as other themes, including you know, some of you might have been to different sessions on gardening and food use, so maybe we'll do something around that, or energy use, maybe we'll do something around that. But let us know if you're particularly interested in joining a themed cohort, or have an idea for a group that you might want to form. This is really starting to become sort of a grassroots organizing movement of organizations around the country who are dedicated to doing this work. So the cost, we do have to talk a little bit about that. I don't want to spend too much time on it because this is just a recommendation, but I do want to say that, we consider a couple things when we think about program costs. One is, what does the program cost to Hazon, and what is reasonable and fair for other sites to pay? Again, I want to say that regional sites are often covered by local funders, local foundations on the ground, and so if that applies to you, then this next information does not, so you can ignore that. But for all other cohort sites, we recommend $180 a year if your annual operating budget is $500,000 or less, $500 a year if you're between 500 and a million, $1,500 for $1 million to 2.5, or $3,600 for 2.5 and up. And again, let us know if that feels like undue hardship. Nobody's going to be turned away for not being able to, pay a program fee. We really want this to be open to everyone, but we do feel like, there is some compromise we have to make in order to actually cover program costs. So this is a glimpse at our new website. If you knew anything about the old seal.hazon.org, it definitely didn't look like this. But I did just want to kind of show you what we've got. So brand new layout. You can see right up at the top, we've got this apply button, nice and big right there in the front. You can check out all the information about the program, get in touch with us, or if you're currently a site, we can get you logged in. And then that would look something like this. So here's the login page. This Seal network actually has been changed to Community Connections, and that's where you would find your social networking. You've got your audits and of course, more information about the program. And then we've got some resources in here. So the audits look a little bit different. You can sort of click on each one of these, check out your profile. Once you take the audit itself, you'll get a snapshot that looks like this. You did a great job, wonderful. And there's still more work you can do. So we give you there's always more work we can do. So we give you some dedicated, project ideas that you can take a look at there. And so just because we've been teasing it, this is a shot of our social networking site. Again, very early stages, but we think it's got a lot of potential. As you can see, there's groups, there's forums, you can message people directly if that feels useful. And the reason I'll say that this was created was from a direct request from participating sites in the Hazon Seal. You and other sites, reached out to us and said, we'd really love a dedicated way within the Seal to communicate with one another. Can we come up with something? And this was a group effort to come up with this project. So I'm going to pause here and take questions. I'm going to stop my screen share. Hello, cohort. Yes, actually, I almost mentioned that, and then I was like, well, it's not a done deal yet. We would love to have a Hello cohort. We actually have one of our interns who's working with us today, Neetsan, is thinking about how to start such a thing. We've already got, I think we have 2 Hillels who are signed on to the Seal right now, and so thinking about, one, how to network them with each other, but then also, if there's more Hillels that want to come on board, more than happy. I think with the revised program fee structure, it makes it a lot more accessible to smaller sites and to sites that maybe previously wouldn't have felt comfortable. Also, again, with the change of the audits and more of a focus now on programming, and also thinking about messaging and branding and less. There's certainly still an emphasis on facilities, but we feel like we've just expanded the definition of greening and sustainability work within your community to sort of make that more inclusive. CSU, hello, that's Colorado State?
Colorado State University.
Okay, great.
It's Colorado, CSU.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll totally be in touch. Any other questions? Yeah, Myrtle.
You know, it's hard for me to know how to ask this question. I have tried to get our synagogue to join the Hazon Seal of Sustainability like years ago. I mean, like sporadically over the last 8 or 10 years. The pricing has been prohibitive, but I think I need to just speak to you personally. I mean, we're a member of GIPL, Georgia Interfaith Power and Light. And I think the IPLs in different states offer a lot of the sort of same basic tools that you offer. They offer the audits and what have you. And I mean, we've used that. But I think that there's something different about the Hazon Seal of Sustainability because it comes from a Hazon. I mean, there are all these sort of Jewish sides to it that you can't get from an organization like GIPL. I mean, I'm in on the session again because I really want to try again. I'm the only person from my community, but this is a small group, although several of us have been at other sessions. So I just want to just say that I wonder whether anybody else has also used their local IPL.
Does anybody else have any experience working with Interfaith Power and Light on greening initiatives?
Well, it's not quite fair for me to say, for me to also say that, because Myrtle and I are both in Atlanta, and we're both somewhat involved with GIPL. So
yeah, and I mean, GIPL has helped us put together what we call the Jewish Green Friends, which is trying to pull different synagogues together. So Rob, I've forgotten that you were part of the list. Yeah, we need to chat. Good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can speak to that a little bit. So I'm Larissa. I'm the Assistant Director of Community Engagement at B'nai Jeshurun on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. We've been a SEAL site since the pilot year. So I've been involved for a long time. And while we aren't part of Interfaith Power and Light, because actually I don't think there's a chapter in New York City, we're part of Manhattan Together, some other, larger faith-based organizing efforts. I think one of the large differences from my perspective is, and I also don't think they're mutually exclusive in any means, is that the Hazon Seal is going to and has done an incredible job of kind of creating for the Jewish community in the United States, right, these cohort-based models and connecting sites together who are facing some of the same focuses or issues, and that really focusing on like how to build out like a green team within your community rather than doing it regionally. And I think it's staying involved in Interfaith Power and Light, both for the access of the organizing power of having faith-based institutions address some of the larger issues that your region is dealing with, is great. And I think Hazon and folks who are here as part of Hazon can add on or correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea is that to build a cohesive sustainability Jewish movement by connecting all of these organizations is good to have kind of centralized. So again, I think there are ways to use the momentum that you've built if you've been part of the Interfaith Power and Light in the Atlanta area. You probably already have folks who are very interested in the work, and it's a little bit more inward focus, and the support that you're going to get from the SEAL sites is probably something that you can't get from Interfaith Power and Light. So there's the both and of those. And I guarantee that the size of your community, there's already a SEAL site that's probably similar somewhere else that might also, be interested in talking to you about their challenges or what they've been doing. So I think that's also an advantage, is there's a lot of different sizes of communities that are involved. So the chances of you finding somebody similar to you is pretty high, whereas if it's just in the Atlanta area, it's whoever they're connected with. So again, I think there are advantages to doing both, and you shouldn't let the cost inhibit you, because Hazon is really committed to making sure that sites can participate if they want to.
So let me put in one little plug for Interfaith Power and Light. One, it's nice to do things interfaith, right? We don't do enough with the churches in our area, and it's nice to have connection points with other faiths in our community. But one of the reasons that I'm particularly excited about Interfaith Power and Light is they appear to have a fair amount of money that they give away in grants. And they helped underwrite us switching out our fluorescent light bulbs with LEDs. and they provided us a grant for putting in programmable thermostats so that we could lower our energy costs, and they're prepared to give us money to help underwrite the cost of replacing our dishwasher in our kitchen, because it's putting pollutants into the groundwater. I mean, so you know, they've got an annual process for grants, and none of them, I mean, they've all been, I don't know, from $2,000 or $3,000 up to about $5,000 or $8,000. They've not been huge grants, but that grant money is really a huge incentive when you're going before your board and trying to get money for projects that aren't salary and aren't required if there are matching funds available. So
and that's the perfect
if
example.
You are in a place where there is an
how.
interfaith power and light, you should look them up.
Yeah, and I think that's actually like and for us in New York City, we got a rebate from Con Ed to switch out our lamps and bulbs to LEDs. So I think that's actually having more communities that are connected to how to get the funds locally is actually incredibly important. So if in Atlanta it is Interfaith Power and Light, the sharing of the information and having more seal sites allows you to do the how to accomplish it, not the what you'd like to accomplish.
And I'd like to speak to this briefly and just say that what's really wonderful is that these programs are really quite compatible and not mutually exclusive. And for example, in the food and climate cohort, one of my professional colleagues, Lisa Appelberg with Shemaim, is on here, and we are pulling together a food and climate cohort for the SEAL. And we would love if, as one of your SEAL projects, you were participating in Shemaim's Synagogue Vegan Challenge, for example. And that way you are getting the benefits that that program offers. Hazon doesn't have to reinvent the wheel to do that kind of program. But meanwhile, you are tapped into our network and our overall structure, which helps you carry your project forward. And we do offer different things. So to just say, like, it's permissible, if you will say, on our end to double dip, if you will. If you are signed up with another organization doing some great work with them, that can be one of your SEAL projects. We'd like to encourage and push you to be expanding and doing more, but it should not feel that you feel overwhelmed and like, oh, we can't take more on our plate. There's a home for you in the SEAL, regardless of the amazing greening work we, in fact, hope and encourage you to be doing with other organizations.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. I just want to underline all of that and to say that that we're a network. We're a network and we're a community, and I think there's room for a lot of different perspectives and thought leaders here in this space, and yeah, I would just agree with what Larissa and Becky both responded. I want to get back to a question that Allison and Olivia both raised around, is this a program specifically for if you have, a permanent location and you have a building, or is this something that might benefit you if you're looking a little bit beyond that, a little bit more creatively about how you handle Jewish community and greening? I would say both. It depends on what you want to get out of the program. I think previously Hazon Seal has been very dependent on facility improvements or like having that home base and having that physical structure, and we're really starting to think about at Hazon much more expansive understanding of what does it mean to be creating sustainable and healthy and equitable communities. And if that is the drive and if that is the focus, some of that is certainly going to happen at our facilities. Some of that is definitely going to happen at our buildings, where we change out our dishwashers and we change out our light bulbs, and we, think about our landscaping, and we think about the ways that our physical footprint is actually impacting the world around us. And some of that is going to happen through education and through advocacy and through, leaning on and learning from other organizations in our network, or educating our communities around what does it mean to be both Jewish and to care about and have a relationship with the natural world, and how can you use your organizational programming opportunities to think about and to digest and to have conversation around that messaging. The same I would say for advocacy, right? Like we're in a moment where we know we have to stand up and advocate for local, national policy changes around environmental action. And what role does your community want to play? It may be none, but it may be that your community is really interested in standing up and having a say in how policies are enacted. And so Hazon Seal is starting to think about how can we support sites and communities in doing some of that work as well. So I would absolutely say not location dependent. And that's actually, in fact, why we added that fourth audit around education and advocacy, so that you can start to get a sense of, what are the options if, for example, COVID-19, we haven't been in our building, some of us, in 8 or 9 months. Does that mean our sustainability work has to stop? Absolutely not. And we want to provide a path forward for that. Any other questions? Yeah, Giselle.
Okay, I don't really know if it's a very, it's not so much of a question, but it's more of a trying to get an understanding of how the program would benefit. I know that that's what you're talking about, but I am the chef at a school. I've been there for 4 years. We had, like most, volunteer garden that was donated 20 years ago. And when I got there, it was kind of on the declining, no one was paying attention to the garden. I became the garden director. And in the last 4 years, I've kind of grown the garden. And, I am the sustainability advocate at the school. And sometimes I feel very much alone. We did in the last year hire a green, like a chief of sustainability who is changing more of the programs, like we're getting solar panels and things, but it's kind of a challenge between education. I just have a challenge sometimes with school wanting to focus on sustainability, although sometimes I feel like even though the school wants it, there's no one really there to help me. And so connecting with like this organization, how would this benefit to be part of a larger organization? And I just don't see, other than just kind of continuing to do it by myself, let's say. I don't know. I don't know if I'm really asking the question, but I'm not really understanding what the seal will bring to my organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
Giselle?
Myrtle, do you want to add in?
Just where are you, Giselle?
I'm in San Diego. I work at San Diego Jewish Academy, and we have a beautiful like a quarter acre garden, and it's a work in progress. Sustainability is at my passion. I have a background in permaculture and being a chef, and kind of and the school wants to go the green route. Education and college admissions is always at the most important.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think I understand exactly what you're saying, and you're not alone. I just want to say, first of all, that you are not the only person out there who feels like you are the only person at your community or at your organization who is fighting this fight. Like, you are absolutely not alone. And I think a huge part of what the seal has to offer is a community of folks, so that you know that you're not alone. I think additionally, there are some incredible resources that we have, including those consultation calls. It could be with you, or it could be with, whoever at the organization makes the most sense to actually have that conversation around, you're thinking about doing an infrastructure upgrade, you're thinking about including this in your curriculum. Like, how do we actually help you take this from idea to implementation? And we have some staff who can actually help you, do some of those steps of making that happen. I think there's also just a tremendous amount of just a wealth of knowledge from other sites who have already fought this fight and struggled through this process, who can really, share expertise and share learnings. Being in San Diego, it's actually interesting that you mentioned that. Just this past week, we were in conversation with a local funder there about possibly starting a cohort. So let's keep in touch, because that would give you even more on the ground support, for making that happen if that were to come through. So yeah,
is this Coastal Roots Farm by any chance?
Yeah, working with them.
Okay, I work with them a lot. I actually have been texting them while this is happening to ask them if they were in communication with you, but they were getting back to me and someone said no. So interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot happening, I think, in your area, and I'll just say I'd love to have a follow-up conversation with you to see, you know, if this is a good fit and if we could sort of help you move
Another
forward.
question that I had asked yesterday, I sent an email, and I don't know if my question was really understood, but 2 years ago, I went to the Edible Schoolyard project in Santa Barbara.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if you guys had, what interests me the most is sustainability education with the Jewish background that fits really well in with what I'm trying to teach. And if you guys had some sort of in like a seminar, but that just focuses on sustainability in education and community in that aspect
Yeah, we
for
absolutely have.
younger people.
Yeah, we have in the past. We've worked with early childhood educators who specialize in Jewish education outdoors and in gardens and in forests. We haven't done anything this year because we've been in the midst of other things. But yeah, we absolutely have done trainings on that and do intend to do some in the future. Yeah. Marcia?
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Sorry I was a bit late. I just put in the chat, I imagine that all of you have got loads of resources with educators who are doing your kind of work. So, but I put in the chat the name of the head of Jewish Living who worked really hard against a lot of odds, but made it to create a farm, a sustainable farm and garden and a curriculum around it at the secondary school, a local Jewish secondary school. So I just put his contact, his name and the school in the chat. I would imagine that is there a network of educators who do your work in their schools? Maybe Hazon runs that already.
We don't run it, but there is a network and we're happy to put you in touch with them. We are active participants, and I'm also going to put another link in the chat for an organization called Grow Torah, who all they do is Jewish education in gardens, in school gardens, and they've got a wealth of curriculum that they can share. Any other questions about the seal? Other questions that we can get to?
I guess my question is, where can I go and figure out some ideas? Because I was actually in the middle of writing for our grant, because I know in Detroit we get the micro grants, and I'm just have had the biggest trouble trying to think of ideas of what to do, because all of our students are at home. Most of them are living with their parents. Our big idea was to overhaul how we serve Shabbat dinner and the plastic and the paper and all that stuff that goes with it, and that was just kind of an easy first step, a first project to do. And now that we're not doing those dinners, we're not really doing much of anything. How can we use the money from this micro grant and do something powerful? I mean, we're not even going into the office. So, and even then, like I said in the chat, we can't change it. We're at Wayne State University. They take care of the garbage. They take care of the facilities. Most of the furniture is from them. So if anyone has any ideas of what to do, I'm kind of at a loss for this right now. So
Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing I will say just up front, and then we can turn it over if anybody has any ideas they want to share, is that as a current participating site, you are eligible to, participate in those consultation calls. So feel free to reach out, and we're happy to get you some one-on-one, a good hour of brainstorming to kind of help you, think through some of this. We also now have that feature on the portal if you get logged in, and you should already have access if you're a current site, and we can start a forum post and just say, hey, I'm an organization without a building. What are you guys doing? Because we've definitely had sites who have been innovating and thinking about their programming all summer. So we've got a list of the projects that have been turned into us, and we're totally happy to share some of those resources and to kind of help you think about what the options are.
okay.
And my tech person is telling us we have about 5 minutes, so I want to make sure we wrap up.
I'll also just add that we are currently brainstorming the webinars that we'll want to put together for seal sites in this coming years. And this has been coming up, like, how do we do programming right now in a pandemic? And so I think that that will likely end on our finalist list for an early in the year offering that we put together, because we've been getting a lot of feedback from both interested sites and existing sites, and there's some super amazing creativity and huge successes going on out there, and this does not mean we're at a halt at all. So we definitely want to support sites and being able to move forward.
Could I ask one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely, Marcia.
Sorry. In my synagogue, I'm the rabbi of a synagogue in outside of Boston in Brookline, and we made a commitment this year to work on, in a very focused and broad way, on racial justice. And I know that I wasn't able to be at the racial justice and sustainability one. I'm just wondering if all these are going to be recorded, because I would love to, both of these are my passions, and I would love to combine them. And we have a strong, committed, big group of people who really want to do both of these pieces of work. But I'd love to be able to make connections between them.
Absolutely. So as you may have noticed, if you've been around a little while, we've now added the words more equitable to our tagline around the Hazon Seal. So it's definitely something we're thinking about, this intersection of, and even today, you know, with the environmental racism panel, like, we're really starting to think about how do we layer these things together. I think Larissa put in the chat, you know, that they've been doing the same thing, B'nai Jeshurun, with a film series. And so there's definitely ideas out there. Yes, all the sessions are being recorded. We're going to send out information links on how to get access to all of those good things. Probably early next week is when you'll get the official recordings, because it'll take us some time to get our ducks in a row there. But you'll definitely have them to share and to watch, sort of as is helpful.
Great. Larissa, if you have a link to that, that would be, or some sort of way I can follow up with you to find out more about that, that would be really great. Thank you.
Whether there's a possibility of like an advocacy cohort, or if anybody has more experience than I do with your organization sort of stepping into politics, quote unquote, or as we are really internally saying, like, we want to speak up for things that we don't consider to be political, even though they've been politicized more recently. But like, especially, you know, we want to become very active in Malibu with, like, how do we reduce, or like whatever with wildfires is like a big thing on top of any other environmental thing. But previously we've always been considered apolitical. So there's now this, like, how do we get out of the apolitical, like, bubble or whatever, and step into that new space. So if anybody else has resources or ideas.
Absolutely. So I've got your name down, and this is just a great opportunity to plug. If anything like that is ever coming up for you, if you're like, we want to do this idea, but who else out there is doing it, feel free to email seal@Hazon. I can tell you, actually, this year we've had a tremendous number of sites step into this advocacy space. They've been running all sorts of different campaigns and programs, and with our help and with the help of one another. And so we've got tons of resources we can link you to, just depending on what you want to do, if it's local, national, policy versus program, you know, all sorts of different ways that you could take that. So yes, totally happy to offer some connections there. We've had a lot of success with letter writing campaigns, get out the vote campaigns, you know, doing some actual policy advocacy, like speaking with their representatives, organizing their communities, you know, around some of these initiatives. And then we have not a ton, but a little bit of support that we can offer you as far as what's the line you have to walk for 501c3, you know, on some of those things. So I just want to say we're right at time. Thank you so much for joining us. If any of your questions did not get answered, or if something comes up after this, please feel free to reach out. Just seal, SEAL, @hazon.org. We check that box daily, multiple times a day. We're absolutely happy to get back to you in any way with any questions. Abby is putting our next information in the chat. We're going to go to the closing session now, just for a final 10 minutes together. But thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.